talking about the buildings of Old East Beach before the 1938 hurricane. And we're very fortunate to have David Jones with us. David has done some extensive research and some highly developed technical work in putting together the results of his research. And we're fortunate that he has decided to retire from his job as a financial advisor and to dedicate his time to telling us about his historical research. And today he's going to be talking about something that's gone. Some of you might be old enough to remember the 38 hurricane.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks again for your patience as we sort of MacGyvered this technical problem we had. I think other than the first page being a little off, the rest of the presentation should be in pretty good shape. As Bob said, I'm going to talk about what used to be on East Beach before the 38 hurricane. Mostly, this is something I've assembled pretty much mostly from pictures and not from reminiscences. I see some faces around here that suggest maybe I can supplement that with some reminiscences later on. Hopefully there'll be time for that when we go ahead. This is just to talk about sort of how I put this together. These are mostly postcards and photos that I've collected. Some of them come from the Westport Historical Society, to whom I owe a debt of thanks, or other public online sources. And I've plotted house locations using Sanborn insurance maps, which I will show you on the next page. Oh, if it comes up. Can you get that? Try the next page. Uh-oh. I'm going to give you a different presentation. There it goes. Hey! Well, I can work with this. So the Sanborn maps gave me these outlines. These are outlines of houses, which I traced from a very large paper map, about this big in a booklet, which was designed for insurance purposes. So it has all kinds of useful information about each house, like does it have a composition roof, does it have shingles, or is it concrete, because they're worried about fire insurance. The neat thing is these maps were so carefully surveyed, they almost did a quickie plan of each house, and they put in property lines, so that you can then go to Google, which has property lines, and pretty much match it all up. So what you see here is a combination of layers. It's the Google aerial photograph. The yellow here, those are houses. I use yellow for houses, traced from the old insurance map. And the other colors are different kinds of buildings, typically garages. This is the eastern end of East Beach here. You can see, if you look, you like looking at aerial maps, that's obviously a washover. That's where in fairly recent times a gale came through and remember washed out the road a few years back, and the road now jogs over like that. Right. It used to be straight. Right. And what you can see, that's just the most recent indication. It's something I'll be returning to throughout the presentation. Notice that these houses are in the water, right? The high water line is here. So almost all of this, as the beach has moved either out to sea or inland towards the land, almost all these things we're going to see now, right now, would be in the water. And pretty much everything was taken out by the 38 hurricane. The government measured the 38 hurricane in Westport Harbor as being 14.1 feet above high tide. Considering that East Beach is, not much of it is more than about 4 or 5 feet above high tide, that means 10 feet of water went across the beach. Eyewitness reports, some of them describe almost like a tidal wave of water disappearing and then coming back in a 2-mile-long front that just swashed and submerged part of the beach, and then more came and made it deeper and deeper. And of course it's not just water, it's debris in the water, it's logs, it's other houses, it's waves, and then it'll have to go back out again. So the combination of all that left pretty much nothing standing. The next slide. So that's today. It's about a mile long, East Beach, from end to end. We're going to start at this end and go to that end. Page on, please. Oh, this is, okay, the slides are maybe a little out of order. This is the mask that I put together. This is all the tracings from the insurance map. Next slide, please. Oh, that covered up. These are the sections of the map that we're going to go through. Basically, I'm going to start at this point, and we're going to take a walk up the beach to the other end.
Hopefully.
Let's see. Okay, this is the first one. This one came out all right. We're now looking at the route of Gooseberry Neck, where the causeway goes out Gooseberry Neck. And these are the tracings. These houses are still there. That's what was Allen's Bathing Pavilion. You might know it as Chandy's by the Sea. But pretty much all of this was taken out by the hurricane. You would see it's now in the water. we're going to take a walk out onto Gooseberry Neck first. So this is, I love this scene. This is what Gooseberry Neck would have looked like before the turn of the century. There was no causeway. You could walk out at low tide, but at high water, the waves would have curved around Gooseberry Island and connected like this and just crossed. And I'm sure it must have been a beautiful scene because in fact there are a lot of people who took pictures of this because it was just a sight. Twice a day you would have gotten to see that. Let's go on to the next. But that wasn't quite satisfactory. So by 1914, the town had experimented with putting 2 rows of stones out. And the theory was that the wave action would catch sand in between them and build up a natural causeway. And that you'd be able to walk out at more parts of the tide. I don't know if that didn't work or if it didn't work fast enough, but by 1924, there's a steam engine out here, a steam shovel rather, working away at building something that would be more like what we recognize today. That sign there actually says, walk across the bridge and buy a house lot. By the end of the 20s, this was for sale. Let's see the next one. I don't know if you can make this out. This is the plot plan for what was going to happen to Gooseberry Neck. And I counted 474 house lots.
So it was privately owned at that point?
At least somebody had it for sale. I haven't done any research right in the registry of deeds, which would be really interesting. There was a, sorry.
It was all recorded, obviously.
Yeah, there was a sign for, there's an advertisement I didn't put up here in Country Life magazine, Sure magazine, advertising this whole island for sale as Rest Isle. That's something like X cents per foot. Say, ideal for amusement park or residential area. Anyway, this isn't something that was destroyed by the 38 hurricane. I think this was probably destroyed by the Great Depression, since that plan was dated 1927. So it never happened, fortunately. Anyway, now that we're back on Gooseberry Neck, we're going to look back. All right, now we're looking at the point of where the causeway now joins the beach. And the top one, this is before there's any causeway. There's somebody going across in a horse and buggy. Here's those 2 lines of stone. That's probably around 1914. And this one's before they really built it up. It's still a little newer. These little names I have up here. LS, that's the life-saving station, which is now sort of a museum out there. Yes. Being moved many times. This house you might recognize. It's still there. And you can see the life-saving station is right behind it here. And then you can see it gets a little bigger. We'll look at that again in a minute. W is what I call the Winslow Cottage. That's the sort of anchor of the next block. And you can see here, there are no houses between the life-saving station and Winslow. Here there are a few. Here there's some more. And some more over here. That's over a fairly rapid period. I notice I've got, or earlier, when you're dealing with postcards, you tend not to be able to pinpoint the date. You usually have, it's like you have a postmark. Something's postmarked 1918. Okay, it's not any later than 1918 unless somebody had a time machine, but it could have been a picture taken in 1902 and printed in 1918. So you don't often have more than the latest. This one I'm pretty sure is around 1914 because some similar slides, or actually these are large film negatives, had cars with license plates where you could read the number. So that one's pretty close. But in less than 20 years, this whole area developed pretty rapidly. Next slide, please. All right, so if we walked across the causeway, right now we're walking to the mainland. The first thing we'd see on the left is this big old house. Still looks kind of like that. It did survive the 38 hurricane with significant damage. There's a little windmill that was there for a while. This is pretty old. This is probably before 1915. I don't know exactly how old. This is an early iteration of the Allen's Bathing Pavilion. And next door is a house called the Montauk Inn. Next slide, please. Here's some people bathing at Allen's Bathing Pavilion in the wonderfully practical bathing costumes of the day. This guy actually appears to be wearing socks. These ladies are wearing hats. So definitely a different kind of swimming. But this was getting to be pretty popular, and the windmill's still there. It's pretty old. Next one, please. This is a view from the life-saving station, looking out towards Gooseberry Neck in the distance. There's still no causeway. Windmill's still there. As I said, that house is still in place, but next door off this way is the Montauk Inn. Can we see that? This building is also still there. These were both built up on pretty high ground. They brought in some kind of fill to raise them up, which certainly helped them. If you go there now, these stone pillars are still there. And in some of them, you can actually see Montauk stamped into the concrete. So that was pretty high quality concrete they put in there. This little garage is still there, but it's been sort of subsumed under a whole lot of other buildings on top of it. Next, please. Across the street was a life-saving station. It's a very old picture of it when it was just a little thing. This might even be from when it was way down West Beach at the point, Turnboat Point. Next, please. And you can see it in this picture, which is taken from all the way down Town Beach in West Beach, and in the high dunes there, looking across. This is West Beach curling around. And way out here, that's the life-saving station. That's the sort of gravel bar leading to Gooseberry Neck. And that's the Winslow Cottage, and there's nothing else there. So this part of the beach, at this point, was pretty much undeveloped. These houses you see here were actually on West Beach. I don't know if this might be before the, well, this is probably after the bridge from the Point, which was like 1896 or something, but not much after that. This is pretty old. Next, please. And as I said before, later on, after these two houses were built, the road got realigned a little, and this is in a slightly different position. That's the life-saving station with a few additions to it later on, next to the revitalized road. That's perfect. Here it is. There it is with its funny little dormer on top. It's actually a lot smaller than it looks in this picture. This looks like a reasonable person's home. It's actually like this. It's really narrow. So those are tiny little dormers. And there's the stone wall of the Monento. One other thing to find in this area. The Breakers. Right. The Breakers was a dance hall. It was built in 1922. It says here, dancing every evening. Since it burned down in 1928, it's not on my map. The insurance maps I have were made in 1933, so it was already gone. So we had to do a little detective work to figure out where it was. But see, there's some people hanging out. There's like a little, almost a little commercial strip right by, well, wherever this was. Okay, John. You can find it. This is another view from the causeway even a little bit later. By the position of these houses, the life-saving station is kind of right over here. So if you were going to go out to the causeway of Gooseberry Neck now, just about on the other side of the road from the water, just about when you got to the life-saving station, that's where the dance hall used to be. I haven't found any traces on the ground. Yet one more thing you could have done while you were enjoying the Horse Neck Point experience. So what happened to these in the '38 hurricane? There's the life-saving station. That's what happened to it. You can see it's been knocked off its foundation again for probably about the fourth time. And it was rebuilt with this. Many people might remember that. That's the restaurant that was there for a while and has been now preserved in slightly different form. As for the big houses at the root of the causeway, this is what happened to them. Now, you see the upper stories were fairly intact, and the story goes that these houses did save a number of people because the people ran to them and they did actually stay above water. The bathing areas down below were completely destroyed, as you can see, but they rebuilt and the houses are still there. Next. And here's a later iteration when they rebuilt the bathing pavilion. It's Allen's at this point, and then it became Chandy's. And if you go there now and you look at the shingles at the right angle, you can still see clam cakes on it. So it hasn't completely worn off on the roof. Next one. As for the other direction, though, complete destruction. These houses were tall, the others were not. I'm going to show you where this is. We're standing in the yard of the Monento. See that? So here's the flagpole, and here's the stone fence, and there's another stone pillar behind this tree. Behind this car. We're kind of right here by the swing set. Let's try to take another look. So here we are. There's the flagpole, and there's the stone pillar. We're looking down the road in from 88, would be coming in over here. And we're looking all the way down East Beach. They brought over bulldozers to just shovel off all the cobbles and all the debris.
How long did the hurricane last? In other words, how long was this period of the flood tide coming through there?
That's a good question. I haven't heard anything that says how long it was. It wasn't one of these all-day jobs. It was a very, very fast-moving hurricane. That was, in fact, part of why it was so dangerous. But it hit near high tide.
Yeah, because the fetch between there and Cutting-Oak Islands is about 15 miles. So the water had a hell of a stretch to build up before it hit the beach.
What's more, it was yes, absolutely. And it wasn't just the wave action; it was the storm surge.
Right.
The low pressure was pulling a lot of water and bringing it all the way up from the Carolinas, Blackness, and all the way to Long Island as well. Next slide should be this. Okay, I went back there a couple of years ago, and this is the view now from that same location. One thing I learned: this is the route of the flagpole. One thing I learned about flagpoles pretty much always taken down, but their bases usually are still there. So there it is. And that's the stone pillar, and that's what East Beach looks like now. This is actually all the way out to, I guess, Barney's Shore. East Beach ends about here. So as you can see, pretty much now, there's nothing on the other side of the street, and not much except trailers further down. The next slide. This is a day, there were some fairly muddy pictures like this that were taken after, during the cleanup. They've clearly gotten cars across now. Next one, please. This is further down the beach. These line of trees, I think that's pretty much where Gidley Lane is, where John Reed Road comes in. So if you imagine now, you've just come off Route 88, you're looking down the beach. It's wiped clean. Not to belabor the point, but the part of the beach that I just showed you, I can say, oh well, here's what the house looks like today. From now on, pretty much it isn't there anymore. Everything we're going to see from now on is pretty much lost. We're going to go to the next section, which I call the Winslow Block. Let's have a look at that. We've just been down here. There's the life-saving station. We're going to look at these guys. A nice little trim row of houses that would now be well in the water, as you can see. And the next stage will be getting up to these very big, important hotels that were on the beach at an early stage. Let's go on. So here we are looking across. This is the row of houses I'm looking at. Next, please. That's just a little bit enlarged. Nice looking set of houses. This is again from about 1914. All different. That's kind of nice. You know, it's like it's vernacular though. A lot of the houses on the East Beach are different from each other. Next, please. I call it the Winslow Cottage. I don't know if you quite come across here because I have a card that says, "This is the Winslow Cottage." I don't know who wrote that, but there's the X, so that's the Winslow Cottage.
Spots to spot.
It seems I got it. And here's a hand-colored version of the same thing. You can see this is at that stage where there's nothing much else out there on the beach other than Bird Head. Next slide. Here it is, all alone by itself. Actually, the life-saving station is probably behind it, but there's no causeway to Gooseberry Neck. There's no seawall. There's nothing. Next, please. There's another view of the life-saving station peeking out, and this is from further up the beach. You can see there's a nice little pony cart on the beach. Onward. This is just a comparison in a few short years. So this is 1907 or earlier, this is 1912 or earlier, maybe 10 years in between these. You go from having just these two guys, these are all new. Those little ones we were looking at a minute ago. That one confused me for a long time until I realized they painted it white. It's the same house. This one was demolished, and there's actually another house here. So in a short time, that cunning little group of small houses was added to that part of the beach. Next, please. Here's just one more look at it. The Winslow Cottage is the last one there. Next, please. This is the last picture I have of this row of houses. There's actually one more house here at this point, and those cars are a little newer. There's a big cottage was added here. So they just sort of were filling in all the little spaces on the way out to Gooseberry Neck. And the reason this is the last slide is because this is a card that was handed out or sold after the hurricane, before and after card. You can see they'd even built a seawall up there, as they still have today, and just gone. One of the interesting things, the historical things you get out of cards like this was a sailor apparently writing home perhaps to his sweetheart via free post in 1944. He wasn't all that literate, but he's saying it's the place where I'm stationed at now. The hurricane took all the houses off the beach, nothing but sand here now. So even in 1944, nobody had really rebuilt. There were some houses on there by 54, so at some point, people put them on before 54 kind of made it trailers only from then on. Let's see, we can move on to the third section now. Right, okay. This is an area where I start to get more pictures of people, because this is now kind of the middle of the beach in a way. This is right where you come off 88, you go on John Reed Road, you hit the beach. It's actually one of the widest parts of the beach in terms of distance from the road to the water. And there was quite a lot of commercial activity here. There's a Burden Head Hotel, there's a Surfside Hotel, there was a chapel, which I don't have a picture of, and a store, and then a nice little tidy row of houses. We will look first. Oh, I should say also there's this street here is still there. And at this part of the beach where the last set of houses were, you tend to think of this as being the beach road, but there used to be another road. That's actually one road in. All those houses were on the other side of the road. It's now nothing more than a sand track at that time. I'll have a picture for you from that spot later on so you can see what it looks like now. Let's take a look. So we're now from a fair distance up the beach. This is looking quite a ways down East Beach now. So there's the Burden Head House, a great big thing. Looks like it belongs on the point more than on the beach. All the way out to some houses we'll look at later. The Ocean House, probably the second oldest hotel, and these rather overdressed ladies here and kids bathing. We'll start it with Burden Head and have a look at that. Oh, just a little more zoomed in. These are some key landmarks we're going to go. Look, Burden Head, which is a little ways back, great big thing. Surfside Hotel right on the water, and this little Stonehurst house. Next, please. Burden Head. Burden Head, in his own person, encapsulates the history of East Beach to some degree, because his Burden Head house, which was built for sportsmen, was one of the first, if not the first, hostelry on East Beach. And Burton Head died on East Beach in the '38 hurricane. He wouldn't leave as an old man and was drowned. So that he pretty much saw the whole thing. Now I'm a birder, so by my standards, this guy's a murderous bastard because he's on the one hand, yeah, okay, he's fishing, but he's the kind of guy. This is the old days of duck hunting. It's like, well, we went out and we shot 12 ducks, but the hunting was so good, we kept shooting, and we came back with 60, and we sent them to market. It's like, yeah, passenger pigeon too. Anyway, and what's more, that bird on is like, that's a loon. Who shoots a loon? Anyway, this is all before the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. A different time, and you can clearly, he's a pretty rugged looking guy, Mr. Bird. Carry on. There's his house. Like I said, this house, I mean, it's unique on the beach for looking like a house way inland, right? This doesn't look like a beach house. This looks like a captain's house somewhere, around here, or like I said, on the Westport Point.
It also looks fairly old.
Yeah, I think it was 1860s. This one I was looking at.
Yeah.
Burton Head House was by 1876. So it looks like somebody just built a fairly standard house. Incidentally, it has a kind of a list to one side. It's slightly lower on this side in those pictures, but it stayed that way for 50 years, so it worked okay. Let's carry on. It's a ways back from the beach, unlike pretty much everything else on the beach. There's quite a lot of land here, so we used it. But I also think Burton Head wasn't really that interested in the beach. He wanted to go hunting and fishing, and he didn't really want to go hanging out on the sand. Here's a family picture. This is from the Westport Library, where the Duffy family was looked at just recently. A whole bunch of pictures have been found. Carry on. So if you were staying at Burton Head House, it wasn't always sportsmen, sometimes it was family. It's all about the porch, right? Here are the girls on the porch. Here's the whole family on the porch, and sleeping on the porch seemed to be a really important thing in Burton Head.
I think that's the same guy, isn't it?
He's got his wife with him. And this one is actually one of those cute little decals that said contentment. And actually, you know what? I think there are a lot of couples where that would be their idea of a nice afternoon at the beach. He takes a nap, she reads her book, everybody's happy. It looks like a nice time at the beach. But it was all about the porch. Next. Remember I was saying there's a fair amount of room here. There's a lot of space between the buildings and the road. The road is back behind that building. And there's a lot of space between the houses. That's unusual for East Beach. Burton Head's here, Surfside here, Stonehenge there. We're going to look at Surfside next. Oh, looks like the dory. We might not get the dory. This is a lovely picture of people launching a dory from the beach. Here, onto the Surfside Hotel. Surfside Hotel has a different history than Burton Head. We started out as a sportsman's lodge and pretty much stayed that way. Maybe sorry, a few accepting families. The story of the Surfside Hotel is that Mrs. Gifford was an excellent cook and used to sell food out of a tent on the beach. The tent turned into a house. The house turned into a hotel. The hotel expanded, and it became quite the fixture. So it's very much more a place for people to stay and to dine. And here's some dudes hanging around on the porch. You'll also notice it's right on the beach. Right, there are the cobbles, the water is just right on the other side. Let's carry on. This one that was postmarked 1912. Oh yeah, here's a little piece of history too. This is to, yeah, 1 cent stamp, but it's to Miss Nellie Gaskell, American Thread Company, Fall River, in the warping department. And it's from the name I can't even fill in. I imagine some worker at the American Thread Company writing back to her friend, taking presumably a fairly modest trip to the seaside and riding home. Next, please. Well, that's okay. The Surfside added a dining room, which I have another picture of. That's their next one. Ah! I'll have a picture later on that shows the dining room, the outside. We were fortunate enough to have pictures from inside, and it's quite a grand little room. Apparently, Mrs. Gifford is quite a cook. Next picture. Ah,
I don't know what's going on.
well, try next one. Yes! So we got the detailed picture. It really you've got like a cut glass vase. Mrs. Gifford was known as being a collector of antiques. And if you look at a lace tablecloth. I mean, if I were staying at a little place on the beach and I came down for breakfast and it looked like that, I'd be pretty happy. It looks like a nice place to stay. And then next page. Yes, we got that one too. Some kind of needlework with setters on the wall here. And no less an authority than Bernie Gifford himself tells me that that's mocha ware, so something that he collects. So she had her antiques downstairs. And it would have been, there's a samovar, right, for tea or coffee or whatever. It looks like a pretty genteel place to spend a couple of days on the beach. Next page. That's the dining room. There's a picture picture of it. So it was built out from the house. Remember I said this one just keeps expanding? That's great for me, by the way. Houses that never change are terrible because I get 10 pictures and I can't tell which one came first. But if they add a dining room, it's like, these are all before the dining room, these are after the dining room. So I love people to change their houses. And just another avenue group down there on the beach. I should also say there are a lot of postcards at the Surfside Hotel, and they were published by the Giffords, or at least they arranged for them to be credited, and they sold them in their store, so that explains why there are a lot of postcards at Surfside. But at Surfside, it's all about the beach. At Burton Head, it was all about the porch. Surfside, everybody's on the beach. This is actually the same couple in two views. And notice, this is the walkway across the cobbles right down to the beach. It was really literally on the water, especially at high tide, and that was clearly the place to be at the Surfside. Next place. Oh, I'm not going to get Dr. Dubois. John Gifford was the proprietor, the husband of Mrs. Gifford of Cook. And we get quite a few pictures. I have another one of them. Let's see what we got. This was in chocolate wood. Ha! All right, we're going to get another one. And apparently he was quite the character and part of the appeal of the hotel, because a lot of people write about him. This is his store, which was all the way up on East Beach Road. And if you came off John Reed Road and turned left, and you went about 20 yards, there was the store. So especially once the Point Bridge was there, this is the first thing you'd see really when you got onto the beach. Here it's called a John Alden store. I think that's something like a Ben Franklin. I don't know if anybody's seen that before. It's sort of a semi-chain. But it does actually, when you read it carefully, it says John Gifford owner. So you haven't sold it. It's like, like Hardware Stores Connect with Ace or something. I don't know if you quite make it out. These ladies are in a funny kind of miniature pony cart.
Pony cart.
Drawn by a miniature pony. And there's these beautiful flowers here. And this is Mr. Gifford himself. Now these cars here, here's an example of one you can date pretty well. The cars date to 1927 or so, and they probably didn't last all that long, so you're probably talking no later, 27 to 1930 for this picture. Nice little place to stop off on your way down to the beach. Next, please. The back of this card is another little look into time. It was postmarked in 1935, this one. And the woman writing home comments, John has aged considerably, but is very jolly. And in fact, this was the year of his death in 1935. The next year, in 1936, his wife sold or closed down the hotel. And while that's sad, one can only hope she got her fabled collection of antiques out before 1938. It might have been a timely way to leave East Beach at that point. Next, please. This would be a picture of the St. Rose of Lima Chapel, but it's not a very good one, so you're not missing much. The St. Rose of Lima Chapel I don't have a good picture of. It was a small Catholic chapel next to the Gifford store. It was washed directly across the Let and fetched up somewhere up, I don't know, across from John Reed Road or Gidley Lane or something. However, I'm told, I haven't gone to see it yet, that the bell was saved and can now be seen outside the Catholic Church in Pizzetta Village. So one day I'll have a non-existent picture of that to show you. Let's try the next. Can we try that? It's really going to die out on us. I have an alternate plan. Let's always have that. Okay.
You want to jump that far ahead, or you want
I can jump this far ahead. Maybe it's still thinking. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do the slides we've got, and if I still have time left at the end, since I usually run way over, you may have the luxury of seeing the end on time. If there's a lot of time, I have another way we could try loading it while we chat about this. This is just past the Surfside Hotel. As I said, there's a nice tight group of houses there. And this one was particularly photogenic. And usually, when you see a whole lot of pictures of one area, I found it's usually, in this case, because there was beach access. So there was remember that I said there was a lot of space here? You could actually get to the beach. So people would get there, and they'd take a picture this way, then they'd take a picture that way, and they'd send them home. On the other end, there's also this very pretty gingerbread house here. Right? Look at that. Look at all those ornaments outside. And it's actually quite tiny. That would have been much smaller than this, and a very, very, perhaps uncomfortably small house. But very pretty, and for those of you who are architecture buffs, this is a style of house that repeats in various places on the beach and seems to be old. There are some very old ones that were demolished. and I don't know why you would have demolished them unless it was because they're really either too small or they're just too old. But this particular style, a gable like this, a gable in front, and all this pointy gingerbread, and quite a nice porch. Probably a dozen of them up and down the beach and on West Beach as well. One day maybe I'll find that it was a builder whose cousin owned a millwork factory and produced all of those. Anyway, very interesting design and made for a pretty view. We're going to be looking down there. Those are the Trafford cottages, which are coming up next after this very tight road here. That would have just been the same scene. Well, that's where we're going next. Trafford cottages are up here. Oh, at least we got the map. So, some highlights of where we've just been. That's the Surfside Hotel, right? That's the St. Rose of Lima Chapel, which wound up over here. This is the block we're just looking at. That's the house with all the gingerbread. Notice, as I was saying, those are really close together. They have a nice big backyard, but there's not a lot of room between you and your neighbors. And they're also pretty small. That's a really tiny footprint. That's the gingerbread house. And when you go down the beach, well, things get to be a little different. These are the Trafford cottages, built somewhat later, still not too far from the turn of the century. On one of the narrowest parts of the beach, you can see the back is right there, so it's kind of a strange place to choose. Maybe it was just the last place left, or maybe it had a nice view. The Traffords were the owners of the factory up at Westport Factory. I call all of these Trafford cottages. I think I only know that 2 or 3 are, and the others are just sort of big ones next door. They might belong to other people, but definitely some of them were from the Trafford family. The oldest one is the first here. Reading from from east to west, and the others were built a little bit later. Let's see if we have any pictures of them. We don't have the 86, but I have the detail of that one, which has got all the good stuff. So no problem. This is the same slide that was just missing. That is the oldest of the Trafford cottages. That's a real Queen Anne kind of thing. I'm guessing it's pre-1900. Well, I know that because this picture, which I come back to a few times, this is from the New Bedford Public Library. It's taken in 1886, according to the New Bedford Public Library. That's 10 years before they built the road across from the point. So you would have accessed this from Porcelain Road. So these are some of the oldest houses on the beach. That will be coming to later. The Ocean House is the second oldest hotel after Birkenhead's, probably from around this time or earlier. And these are some houses that were torn down to build some of the Trafford cottages. And this is what I was talking about. Look at the shape, right? One little gable facing this way, a nice porch, and lots of this gingerbread stuff. That particular type, there's some houses much like this on West Beach that were torn down. But these guys were lost, like I said, because they're old, because they're tiny, I'm not sure. Anyway, we're going to look at the one that's still there, T1, the first of the Trafford cottages. This is a view looking back up the beach. Some folks in casual beach attire up here. With apparently a new baby all swaddled up. And those are the little cottages that were later destroyed. You can see how small they are. So there's one room back in front. So truly a cottage, you know, unlike the Trafford cottages. Let's see. Yeah, you can get some sense of how they had a lot of space, but the beach wasn't that wide, so they didn't have that much room in back. Let's see the next one. Okay. Yeah. Here's a view looking back up at this house from the beach. Just a big kind of thing. This is another one that looks like it belongs to the city, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't really look like a beach house. I'd expect that in like Somerville or something, you know, down a side road. A few things to note. A very interesting, complicated architecture. This little sort of angled window, and I love this little bit of roof that covers the chimney, sort of sticking out at the end. Really fun stuff like that. Another thing to notice, though, is the way the beach works at this point. It's tallest here, and notice how that's a lot lower. So they were building right up to the natural mound, right at the edge of the water, and we would have gone sloped down as you went away. Some of its successors are there. We'll get to them in a minute. We're going to look at T1 one more time. This is the oldest of the Trafford cottages.
Is that a flagpole or?
Flagpole.
Because there is no electricity from what I'm seeing out there, apparently.
You know, it's funny. It's a really good point. Quite often in old pictures you say, there's no electricity, and then you look around and there are phone calls. Somehow, quite often if it was a hand-colored card, they'll paint out the wires. I think they were considered undesirable, and it may just be that the resolution is good. So I can't swear to that. That's what happens there. This is a rear view again, showing a really rather complicated structure. This house, by the way, doesn't change. It's one of the ones where, oh great, another picture, I can't tell how old it is. Because I think they figured they did it right the first time. They just kind of left it the way it was. Next page. The next one was two houses down the beach, which several pictures of it, so one of them come out. It had a very wide lawn. It's rather whitish.
That is wide.
Lots of space. Oh, come on. I gotta have one of number 3. All right, let's try number 2. Yeah, we're still trying number 2. Oh, we have a detail of number 2. Yeah, hopefully there are I have about 10 pictures of the second Trafford Cottage, so one of them will come out. This is a detail of one of the pictures. The second Trafford Cottage, as I call it, was absolutely the grandest house on East Beach, and a beautiful house by any standard. It's just very nicely made and designed. Look, that really looks like the beach cobbles that are all over the place now, right? I think they pretty much used the materials that they had at hand. Built a lot of the house out of stone, the chimneys out of stone, these beautiful stone fenceways. There's a tragic element to that in that made people a little too confident in the safety of this house. So some lives were lost when people took shelter there in the '38 hurricane, and it was still built on the beach, and 10 feet of water was going to take it away. But while it lasted, it was an absolutely beautiful thing. This is a severe crop of, this is a postcard this big that you're seeing a picture of. And it's a picture of about, I don't know, a half square inch of it. The old photographs, the photographic postcards were really just a big piece of film that were printed just like that on the paper. So there's tremendous amounts of detail you can pull out if you get a good print. And this one, I was looking at the house and I said, wait a minute, something's going on there. There's a car. These two things were circling a coat that was left on the stairs and a briefcase. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy, to take this picture, had one of these enormous box cams, right, and a tripod. And this is not the kind of thing where you usually catch action or slice of life. It's like blurred pictures, long exposure of the waves going in and out. And he's taking pictures of houses. But he actually caught a little bit of action here, probably because it was such a bright day, you could use a fast shutter speed. Let's see if we get the next one. Yes! And you go around the side of the house and you find out what it is. Hey, could that be a Trafford? He's got his coat off, he's rolled up his shirt sleeves, and he's picking up something on the lawn. So it looked like someone had just shown up to take charge of the house. This is some more of that beautiful construction. This looks a little less like cobbles, doesn't it? It looks more like stone that might have been trucked in. It's not the rounded stuff you see. And if we have the pictures, you'll see this ivy is kind of abandoned their existence. Let's see if we have the ivy pictures. Let's try another. The ivy's getting out of hand this week. Another one. No. We can get them all. There's enough time. I got it in another version. This is a picture, a crop from another one of those little tiny cards. We're looking down East Beach Road, so now we're on the road side of all the cottages. I cherish these because there are very few pictures of the road. I take a picture of the road and I take pictures of the beach. And you can see this line of fairly grand, these are just the garages of the houses. That's the stable behind the Ocean House Hotel. That's another garage and living quarters in the back. These are the back lot. But this comes from it's latest of 1907. It's probably the 1900, 1910. That magic period when people would be leaning out of their carriage and yelling to the guy in the car, "Get a horse," because there were horses and cars on the road at the same time. Somebody had arrived in this buggy, which looks like it's delivering something, and yet there's the car right down there down the road. So both of them were in use. As far as where we are on East Beach, there's a kink in the road on East Beach that's still there, about midway in the beach, and that's it there. So we're getting down towards one end of the beach. Let's see if we have another one. Just keep going together. Yeah, this is the 5th of the Trafford cottages, the one furthest west. I doubt it is a Trafford. It's different from all the others. You notice it's a wood frame. The thing to remember about this one is not so much the building. It's a pretty little building. But the knobby fence, if we're lucky, we'll get to see the knobby white fence again. Let's carry on. This is a picture of one of you're not missing much because it's the least attractive of the Trafford houses. The Trafford number 4, owned by Harry Bloomingdale at the time of the hurricane. This is a note from Ethel, who is saying, "I took this picture myself last summer." Now, I don't know if I totally believe Ethel on this, or if that's just, I took a picture just like this. It would be nice because, I'm always looking to try to date things. It would be great because it has a postmark and everything. But the most remarkable thing about this one, though, is the way she describes it. This is where I've been hanging out the past week. Did you know that hanging out was an expression in 1932? You know, what? I thought it was more like 23 skidoo or something. 1932 nerds. Whatever. Apparently you could be hanging out in 1932. Just carry on. We missed the scene of utter desolation. It was pretty severe. Let's see what we get. Okay. This is a picture of Ocean House. Now, this is not a terribly good one. It's from the Westport Historical Society. I can't seem to find pictures of Ocean House, which is curious because it's a hotel, and it was built by 1886. We saw it in that 1886 card. It burned in 1933, just before my map was made. So it appears on my map as ruins of fire. That's a little space. It reportedly had not only this rather large hotel. This example of why I can't get good pictures, I can't still tell if that's one building or two, or just one very complicated building. And it has its own windmill, of course. But it also had, they say, a bowling alley, as well as a stable, all between it and the road. The road there now is not that much, there's not that much difference between, let's say, from the road to the end of this building is about as much land as you have. So you're not going to be able to put a hotel, a bowling alley, and a stable in there now.
That windmill would have been for drawing water?
That's what I would assume, yeah.
So there would have been a well,
All of this
and they were only 6 feet above sea level?
Yeah, presumably there's a freshwater lens in there. The more,
Yeah, they run it down to the lens, which is under the barrier ridge.
yeah,
That's what they pull the water out.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure, you know, typically in a place like this with a beach that narrow, you have trouble getting good water.
Right, right.
And then there's a sanitation problem too. We won't get into that. This is just going back, we've seen this slide before. This is they're the uncomfortable looking bathers. Actually, they're actually kids that look pretty happy. That's the Birkenhead House, the Surfside, the Stonehurst. Those are the Traffords we were looking at. Ocean House is down here. It was fairly prominent because it's on a little bit of a point on the beach, just a little bit of a rise. They picked a good spot. You could see both directions down the beach from it. And it tends to be prominent in pictures. Let's see if we got another one. Wait, back up a second. Oh, yeah, okay, the interesting address. And one of these was addressed to a Ms., I forget her name, Borden at Fall River Beach. And Borden's of Fall River. Who her friend was. We're now quite a lot further down the beach, and I'm looking at the clock, we may well have time to load some more later. This is one of the few, remember I said everything on the beach is gone? There's one thing that's still there, this rock is still there. It's just not in the beach like that, it's in the water. But it's still there.
Oh, right.
And you can go stand on it, and I did, wearing waders. It's in the water. And that helps orient some of these things. The Ocean House, remember I was saying it's on a little point, see how the beach kind of slopes out and then it goes back again. The Trafford cottages are hidden behind Ocean House because of that sort of pointy shape on the beach. This Stony Crest house, hopefully there's another picture of it. Just in case there isn't, I will tell you what it is. That's a house built by Mr. Small, who, when I gave this talk in January at Fact Check, somebody told me was a farmer who lived up on Horseneck Road, maybe up by, I don't know, at the Bayside kind of area. He built this little house, but then he added onto it and built a very large porch or piazza, which might have been as big as this one. 2 stories, so you can stand on the top, you can stand in the inside. And as I gave the presentation in January, I said, wouldn't that have been a nice place for a summer dance? A nice big porch right on the water. And a woman raised her hand and said she was there with her elderly mother, who said, I went dancing there as a little girl. So, apparently this was a social center. Let's see if we have a picture of the porch. If not, it's at the Westport Historical Society. And this may be the time to say that I will put all of this on my website so you can see all these slides in the next couple of days. There, we got one. That's it. See, so we added that on. Doesn't it look like fun? So there's a railing on the top. So you would have had a great maybe go see up Sunny Hana, right? Invite some friends over. Once again, it's big enough that he had his garage across the street, backing up on the left. What would have been? Oh, and here again, you see the slope, right? It's sloping back. The highest point is up here, and it slopes down to the back where they had lawns and driveways and white fences, none of which we present today. A couple trailers today. Let's see view. We're now getting up here.
Hopefully.
Oh, no, we're here. Oh, the last section. Okay. Let's see if we get one. The Plaza Hotel and the Kingfisher Hotel were two hotels at the far end of the beach. Plaza I've never seen anything about except in the cards I've seen. Kingfisher was made by was from a Mr. King, and if you have you ever see old pictures of the celebrations they had at the head of Westport during the first, I don't know, 1909 or something, there'll be these banners for Kingfisher House selling food, selling chowder and things. So they would go up to the head of Westport and go on the road with their food. Here's the Kingfisher House. This is one from the this is the historical site, I think. Great. This is one that's quite new. You can see it's all white, brand new shingles. This was near the end of the beach, right about where that jog in the road was, is where this would have been. And you can imagine now there's almost no beach there at all because they had to move the road in. But there was enough room for this. Although not a lot of room. That's not a lot of room. And the water was right on the other side. It was right onto the beach. It says Kingfisher in another picture. I'm not sure if you can see it in this one. This is of the era where there's one of those bells, like the Bell telephone sign, like a long distance telephone. So telephone seems to have been there even though you don't see any wires. So somehow they've gotten it. This replaced some very low little hut. That thing is not much more than the hutch. It's the same with this. And I think those were fisherman shacks. There's one old picture that we just couldn't see as we went by that described that somebody had penciled on it, horse-necked, quote-unquote, houses, like derisive quotes, like, haha, look at the little hovels that people have. But when I want to get a better picture of it, because when you look at it closely, there's language on it suggesting it might have been a commercial building or something.
Have you been able to locate that flagpole, the base?
No, alas, no. East Beach, I can't find anything. I mean, even if the hurricane didn't, they bulldoze those hovels in and out regularly, so I wouldn't expect it. The only things I've found, foundations on East Beach so far, seem to be much newer, because they're like poured concrete, it would have been for something from later. A guy did tell me, though, that he has been snorkeling off the widest part of the beach, where the Surfside Hotel was, and has always been puzzled by a sort of a shallow area where you get a break in the surf that you wouldn't expect. And he said maybe that's where the Surfside is. So when the weather gets a little warmer, I'll put a snorkel on and see if I can find it. That would be where you'd be wanting to look most of the time. See, we have another one, Kingfisher Road. What do we have next? It seems to have trouble with the high resolution pictures. Is what's going on. This is a picture from the Lee's Market Collection, another good one to browse. This is on the beach. There's the Kingfisher. Remember I said you're right on the beach. These are the cobbles. Pretty sure these are lobster pots when you look at them closely. I don't know what the heck that is. It looks like maybe a drilling gantry or something. I don't know. It's a puzzle to me. Is this just fisherman stuff or was this a storm? Because one thing that constantly makes me wonder, these were pretty salty people. Why did they build on a beach like that obviously was really subject to storms? So was it like the first 30 years of the 20th century there were no nor'easters or something, or what? Anyway, an interesting question about this one is whether that was the storm or just the fishermen's supplies. One thing, last time I gave the talk, no less an authority than Q.P. Maycumber told me that the fishermen used to move their boats off this part of East Beach. So that explains some of those fishermen shacks. They could just have their stuff on the beach and throw out the door after their boats. He said after 30 hurricane they stopped doing that. But if you went back long enough, perhaps this was just a lobsterman who had kept his boat on an anchor and just rowed ashore to take care of his business. Let's see what else we got. This would be a lovely example of where the Kingfisher House came from. Oh, no, we've got a granny?
Yeah,
I had a picture from the Westport Historical Society of a very grumpy looking lady on one of the beaches, one of the porches on East Beach. And I called her Granny and said, ha ha ha, and I put these online on my website, and a few weeks later I got a call from a guy in New Hampshire and said, that actually is my grandmother? She was the wife of a farmer who lived on Sodom Road in Westport, and he said, and she was always a very serious person. So he wasn't too bad. Hey, can I get any of my mystery photos? Okay.
I don't know where that is.
Anybody ever hear of this? No, Little Harbor. We do have we have another trick that might work. So I've got this is a PowerPoint slide presentation. I only know what PowerPoint. Harbor on Horseneck Beach. It shows a little cut in the beach and a few little houses, and I could swear it is one of the cut in Allen's Pond that goes through Little Beach, which has moved all over the place, right? except that the houses next to it, I can't identify. I have a few pictures of houses on Little Beach, but very few that not many times people went out there. Probably hard to lug your huge tripod out there. So if anybody who's got pictures of Little Beach, I'm especially interested in those. Unfortunately, like some of the earlier houses on East Beach, they're fairly ephemeral, right? They're like fisherman shack. So a storm or just, deciding to change your lobster pots, you can end up thinking of it. While we wait for this, should be just a couple of minutes, because hopefully the PDF will be able to be read by pretty much any program. Any questions or thoughts or things you might want to ask? Yeah.
What was,
That's it, right?
the population from like the 1890s through the hurricane? Was there severe amounts of tourism, or was it just kind of local factory owners and their families, and all the fishermen? I mean,
Yep, that's a good question. I mean, Westport only had a few thousand people back then.
yeah.
I counted about 70 houses on the ocean side of the beach. So then there were some more across the street. Some number of those would have been owned, some number would have been rented, some number would have been, weekly rentals quite often.
So was that all, was that all basically brought up, a lot of it brought about by railroads going from Fall River through New Bedford and maybe stopping and/or connecting with the cars and whatnot
I would be
to that tourist area?
I don't know. A lot of the cards that I get are being sent back to like Nellie and the Working Department in Fall River or New Bedford. It seems to be people. What I've seen is largely people from Fall River, New Bedford coming out in the short run, and the Traffords were from Fall River, and other major owners were from New Bedford. So all the connections I've seen are to that area. Hey, this might work. That's actually a Trafford. This is a Sanborn map. Let's take a look. Do you ever see a Sanborn map? This is what I did this with. Back up a second. Okay. Well, this will work too. This is what the map looks like after I've traced it. What we have is a great, I said that the sheets are folios, they're about this big, pain in the neck to scan. And the way this worked is there was a very careful map created in 1933, and then they would send it out to these insurance agents. It says on it, you don't actually own this, you were leasing this from us. This map remains our property, you can't do anything with it, you have to give it back to us. Probably explains why it's kind of hard to get your hands on.
Where do you access those?
I'm sorry?
Where do you access those maps?
Some of them are at the Library of Congress. They say they have a Westport map online. This one I actually bought, so I was able to find it like me. Some of them are in the BPL collection too, so if they've been scanned, that's great, but there's a challenge to that, and that is the way they updated these things. So, right, you have a map from scheduled 1933, but what if the factory adds a wing? You need a new drawing, right? The way they did it, since you couldn't exactly do it online or something, is they would send out pieces of paper with little guidelines and say, paste it over. And so paste over the old factory, paste in the new factory. What that meant for a map of East Beach in 1933 and 1943 is that the Home Office sent out a lot of blank pieces of paper and said, paste over everything, right? Because there was nothing left. Actually, you might be able to see on here, yeah, this one, that dark thing, that's actually a new house that was pasted over in 1943. So somebody built something there that was probably a dwelling. But the rest of these, you have to sort of look through the covering paper and shine a flashlight from the back, because you can see it is under the paper, and trace it by hand. So even if you get them viewed online, you might only see the top page, which might not really show you the details. It's a real conservation question of it. Trying to ask, I was just talking with some map guys about it, and they said, some people steam the paper off to see what's underneath. Horrors! I heard a bit of my librarian soul that rebels at that. So I'm going to keep tracing it by hand. That's the process by which we got this.
Now, do you know what those little black dots are on the boundary line of the street level?
Here? These are numbers.
Those are numbers.
But they're arbitrary numbers.
Oh, they're numbers, okay.
Yeah,
They just look like a black smudge.
Yeah, they're arbitrary numbers put in by Sam. I've always thought, great, lot numbers, I can connect with this. No, it's counted the number for their own purposes. Next page, let's see what we got. Yep, you seen that? Let's just go through, we seen that? Yep, I'll stop you when we get something new. There we go, recognize this?
Yeah.
40 minutes ago? Seems like it managed to read the beginning and not later. Yeah, cars are great because you can date things with them. figured they didn't last that long, so you can probably get to it in 2 years. There's the breakers again. This is great, it's like a review. That's right, this will be on the test, so pay attention. What hopefully we'll get is some of those pictures of the Trafford Cottage and see if it's as grand as I was saying it was.
Are you gonna say anything about the 55 hurricane?
Nope, I'm stopping at 38. There's actually very little information about it. It was 55 or 54, I was but 54.
54.
I always get it wrong.
Hurricane Darrell.
There was one in 44, which didn't hit at high tide. And also, everybody was kind of distracted by this war thing, so there isn't a lot on it. It wasn't quite as destructive. And then 54 hit. But we were outside the golden age of photography and postcards, so there's very little in the way of pictures of what was on the beach between 44 and 54 that's public. I'm sure a lot of people have it in their own collections, but I don't have much. People sort of rebuilt, and they also didn't rebuild very grandly, for a good reason, after that first destruction. Okay, we're getting closer.
When is the clam shack go away? Still in?
Not sure what clan shack.
Shanty's.
Oh, Shanty's, yeah, it's still there, it's a private home. And with a big fence. Hey, they're launching the dory, remember I said they launched the dory, there we go. Fun boating at the surf site. All right, here, thank you.
When did they last serve?
Oh, geez, I was a kid. And it was last time that was still a clan shack.
1980s.
Is that it? Yes, it was. There, that's, you see, guys, there's the new dining room I was talking about. Yay, that's another picture of it. Doesn't that look nice? That's the big picture. Okay. I want to go there. So look at that one. Like, oh, man. All right, all about the beach. Oh, hey, here he is. John Gifford, Doctor and Buff, and the two pet cats. There are a number of pictures of wood piles. I imagine with all the cooking and the heating, he needed a lot of wood. There he is in his jaunty youth, with actually a nice, when you see it in full size, he's got a nice little watch chain. So he's having fun. Yeah, the cats don't get names. Doctor and Buff get names. Cats. Well, he's feeding them, so. Cats are mercenary. Let's go on, see what we got next. That's an older picture of the store in the back. I like this one more than the one with the little pony cart, because you have the old cars, and you can see down the beach. This is that little curve, right, that little corner, right when you come off John Reed Road, take a left, that's where the store would have been. Actually, it'd be a nice place for a store today. And that now, that's Trailer Central, if you go that direction. That's the pony cart. Yeah, that's John is very jolly. That's the chapel. Remember I said it's not much of a picture, but it gives you an idea of how far away it went.
That's after the storm.
After the storm.
Right.
Well, I've got some newspaper clipping of the chapel itself. It's another. Yeah, we can go on to that. See that one. This is a fun one because this is around the same place that Doctor and Buff were getting fed. This is behind the Surfside, and it's actually taken from one of the outbuildings of the Surfside. One of the things it tells you is look how much beach there is, right? The Surfside Hotel's over here. And although these houses are very close together this way, they have a pretty nice backyard. That's probably an outhouse there, a little fence for privacy. Plenty of room for stuff between the house and the beach back then. What if we have the one right? Oh, this is a fun one taken either from way out on Gooseberry Neck or else from the boat. Showing again, these are all pretty tightly together. There's the Stonehurst house. And the Trafford Cottage is at the beach. This is why I call it the Stonehurst block. Stonehurst. It's got the name Stonehurst on it up there somewhere. That's a flagpole. People are big on flagpoles. I have two copies of this card with Stonehurst written on it and nothing written on the back. It makes me think Stonehurst might have been a rental house, and this was how they told you about it. A pretty little place, nicely built. It's right in there. We saw this one. There's the colored version that you didn't get to see, so it's really quite a pretty little view. And people would quite often write home and they like put an X on it and say, "This is my room." So from that, you get the impression that there were people staying in quite a number of these houses, maybe on a short-term basis. I like this one because this is how close the beach is. This is like 1906. Yeah, when they say Surfside, hey, it's not funny. Yeah, I don't know. Did you think? Anyway. You thought it was so great, you put it on your postcard. Like,
weather channel when you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
The water
That's a
didn't
good one. Oh, cool, you can see what all these things were with the blue blobs on them before. It was taking us through the beach. Let's keep going. Yeah, we saw that. We saw that. This version of it. Oh, hey, sorry. Can we back up a step?
I can't.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep going. Keep going. We saw this guy. Yeah, okay, so Trafford 1, which is, nice. Nice, is good. That's the cool thing. Yeah, there it is again. There are the little kids. Ah, okay, this is the third one.
Wow.
Number 3, the second one built. Very boxy. Look at this moss.
Manicure.
Oh my gosh. And we carry on with this one. He liked to add dormers. He actually rebuilt the chimney once. So you can tell it's different. So I can date things by it. This house he wasn't satisfied with. Turn this little awning into a porch, and put a dorm over here, later put a dorm over here. Kept building. Next one. But this is the beauty. This is the beauty. I just think it's a great looking house. It's right next door to the oldest. And look at all this stuff made with cobbles. That's actually for the house next door we just saw. Let's keep going. Look at this thing. Okay, this is the one that had the little surprise slice of life. The car is there. The briefcase is there.
Oh, yeah.
And the man is there. So it just really surprised me because usually something like this, you see the building and nothing else because you'd wait until there was nobody there because they got all blurry. Somehow they got a good picture. Look at this beautiful. Yeah, it's just made with the local stone.
And where is the beach in back of that, or are we on the
Beach
beach?
is right behind that.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
standing on, hang on here.
On
for a
the
second.
street
We're
side.
standing on East Beach Road, and you see that's the edge of the cobbles, and the water's on the other side.
Okay.
One thing that I suspect, I don't prove this, look at this, that's a metal stack. He might have had indoor plumbing. Wow. That's a fancy
You
house.
can see a vent pipe in front of the house on the picture you had before, you can see it right there,
Right there.
right under the window.
Beside the steps.
Where-
Right there, right there.
No,
That's right.
Nope, nope.
Right.
A little small window.
Right there.
I got it, right here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
In the other picture, you can
Yeah,
see it
yeah.
was it was a vent pipe.
For a basement or for a sewer?
No, for a sewer or
Sewer
something.
bed. Yeah, so he had indoor plumbing.
He had
Wow.
plumbing in that house.
Classy guy.
Don't want to be swimming off his house.
All right, let's go on. Let's see if we have more of this guy.
There it is.
Now they're not. Now they're circled. Oh, okay.
There
Yeah,
it is, right there.
Yeah, you're right. Neat. So this is his coat, and that's his briefcase that was covered by a blue dot before. And there he is again. One day I gotta find a picture of Trafford and see if that's him or if it's his. God knows it's his chauffeur. That's just another picture of it. A beautiful house. I mean, it's a little bit asymmetrical, but not too much. And I wonder who did the architecture. It's really kind of neat. Hey, yeah, ivy. He had a real problem with the ivy. Right, it's growing up over the windows up here. That, unfortunately, I can't date it with, because you can always cut it back later.
What is your?
This note said this is where the scouts were going swimming. This is Miss Leone Trafford's house from 1930. It makes me wonder if they were maybe just letting people use it. Perhaps being civic minded. Leone Trafford is the daughter of the original Trafford. There's that ivy again. And this one catches them drying the laundry. There's some bloomers and some on that incredibly neat lawn that's better than any lawn I've ever had. Okay, we just keep
Here's the
going.
fence,
I'm sorry.
the white fence.
We'll get to that, we'll get to that. Oh, hey, this is across the street. So here's some kids playing croquet. That's how much room they had. That's probably an outhouse, I don't know. Some cute little outbuilding and these circular planters. Not a lot of room, but nice little spot. Here they are from the beach. Notice this is like drain pipes going way out. That usually means you got water in your basement if you do that. If you bring your drain pipe out that far from your house. And yet, why would this even have a basement? So but you notice it fitted window covers for the winter. Quality of this. Let's see what else we have. And the boardwalk. There was a boardwalk pretty much all along the beach, because have you ever tried to walk on that stuff? That's impossible. So pretty much all up and down the beach there's a boardwalk. There's the white knobby fence.
Yeah.
Number 5. This is the one that I said isn't so great. The last one to be built, that's the Bloomingdale one. This is the one where the girl's hanging out on the back, right? This is where I've been hanging out. There it is, right? That's the big one. See, it's just big, it's blocky. I don't think it's very appealing. Not anything like as beautiful as this. But this is the last picture. There's a white knobby fence. Because, let's go to the next one. This is from a supplement to the Standard Times in October of 1938, just after that hurricane. They did a special edition. And they say Mr. Bloomingdale took this picture. There's the fence post. That's the knobby white fence post. That's all that was left. Right, another on the next page. That's that little place where the kid was playing. Up there, and there's a garage across the street, and this is what it looked like afterwards. Just, chunks of rubble.
Well, that must have been full of junk.
Yeah, and probably houses and all kinds of stuff. There's a wonderful picture in '54, aerial photograph of the lead,
Yeah.
looking out towards the beach,
Right.
and there are like 8 houses in a row on marked pink,
Right. Long
just
line.
washed right out. There's probably something similar. Although maybe this might have just been debris. Might not even have been. So we got next. Yeah, there's the knobby white fence. So like I said, it's 10 feet of water and debris, and then it all goes the other way. So you're building however big your house
Flagpole's
is.
held up though.
Yeah.
Flagpole's certainly held up.
Flagpole? Yeah, somehow this must have just shed the water. Yeah, see utter destruction. This is now looking towards Horseneck Point. I'm sorry, towards the far end, towards Quonset Rocks. So nothing left on the beach. And you can see how narrow the beach is. So things are just, washed into the water. Let's see what we got for Ocean House. Oh, right, we saw that. There are the ladies. Oh, we'll get a better picture of the kids. Right, so there's to Miss Betsy Gordon. This is looking back. Remember I said Ocean House is sitting on its own little point, so it's always fairly prominent. And there's the Winslow Cottage way up by the life-saving station way up by Gooseberry. And once again, we're right here on the beach with some rowboats. Looks like for 2 people. Oh, Mr. Mustache. This picture is one of my favorites, one of the first ones that I really started looking at. And when you see it full size as you can on my site, this is actually all of East Beach that is encompassed by this picture. That's the life-saving station out there. He's sitting, the end, the corner would be right about there. I mean, it's, if you sort of threw your arm out, you'd be at the corner. And I've been to this spot and tried to find all of these rocks. I can't find any of them. I've never had any success. But you can find some like that one that's in the water, and you can kind of line up. I've established that to get this picture, you'd have to be about 20 or 30 feet off the water, and it's been controlled so far. So another one I'll try on a warm day with my waders. I'll try to get the same picture. But all this beach would be just moved back. This would be where there's parking at the very end. Yes, he's got a great mustache and a straw boater. This is, I can't date it definitely earlier than 1906. It's probably in 1900, 1910 range. Not sure. And this huge building here actually says Ocean House Stables. You see that in the next picture. And that's the Surfside Hotel we saw before. There's the Ocean House. There's that sea view, which you haven't seen yet because we have the slide. There we go. Those words say Ocean, H-O-U, Stable. Ocean House Stable. Look at the space, right? There's the big old hotel. The bowling alley's in there. The stable is there, and the road is there. So there was room for, a little expansion. Stretch your legs out. Let's carry on. Yeah, so here's where it is, right? That's not going to work. The ruins of fire because it had burned in 1933. We saw this one. There are those rocks. Oh, this was just a recent find. This is me being antiquarian. Go forward to. Remember I said how much those little postcards were good? A glass negative is even better. There's an amazing amount of detail. And I was just at the Westport Historical Society last week, and there was a glass negative about this big. And so that blow up is from about this much of it. Just incredible amounts. You can see I haven't started cataloging it yet, but this is showing, look, there's a lot of space around Stony Crest. Remember I was saying he had a lot of room? That's the one that built the piazza to dance on. There's the Ocean House, and there's the next piece, and not a lot of width of beach because the let was backing right up on it. This is the East Beach scene from the Horseneck Road. No, sorry, the Reed Road. Okay, there's Stony Crest. That's another view. This is from the land side. You can see the land sloping up towards the beach. That's where the dancing would have been. Yeah. Oh, this one puzzles me. Look at this guy. It says Sea View on it. This is another one that has a telephone pole which can't see any wires. It just, for some reason, they don't show. What is this thing? Right? That looks like it should be an observation tower, right? It's got windows on all 4 sides. It's got this big, big flagpole up the top. But if it's an observation tower, why is it shorter than the building next to it? You can't see anything. They're little steps like on an old-fashioned telephone pole, those spikes.
Radio communication?
That's an interesting idea. I guess that's probably, yes.
Well, it's a whole, that's called together.
I'll have to look carefully. That's a possibility.
Communications,
Yeah.
some kind of station, marine radio connection.
Or it could also be a navigation, that could be a light up there above it.
It's one of the oldest. That one's in the 1886 picture. And the Kingfisher's gonna be there, so let's click through. Oh, there's Mr. Mustache. There are the rocks. The Kingfisher is going to go there. That's what I was talking about, the horseneck houses, the little shacky things. And there it is. This is the one that actually calls it the horseneck houses. So when you look really closely at this, when you see it, this looks like a signpost and there's like some wording on here. So I have a feeling there was some kind of little store-like thing there. Someday I'll get a better copy of this and be able to tell. But that was demolished for the Kingfisher, which would be in a beautiful development here. There it is. We saw this one. But it's brand new. I'm not sure. Did we see this one? This is a few years later. He's built a porch on the roadside. It says cold drinks. This thing says stop here. Kingfisher House. There's
There's a
a
lamp right there. It's right there.
yep. He's got a lamp and it's got glass in it.
Cold drinks.
So those appear in some pictures and not in others. There's one from like 1914. There were a bunch of them at Horseneck Point. I haven't been able to piece it together yet, but there's something going on with those lamps. I don't know if they were municipal or voluntary or what. Let's see what we got. This is from the beach. That's Mr. King. Right on the beach, as I said. The next one should be a close-up there. That's probably Mr. King himself, and that's your typical teenager saying, "Well, do I have to stand here?" And then there's Auntie up there. You got the, "Yeah, what are you youngsters doing?" Smart guy is back there in the shade. Because of course all his face is south, so most of the time you're baking in the sun. Let's keep going. We've seen this one. This is going to show the Kingfisher House in a beautiful dissolved in PowerPoint. Appearing right there. There it is. Right, and there's somebody fishing. That's not all that much beach, right? And sometimes people think that East Beach was really big. Yeah, low tide maybe. But there's still all this cobbles on top. We have, next, I think, see this part. Oh, here are the rocks again. That's a bit of the Plaza Hotel, so that's just the last bit of the beach. There's some very, remember I said you got this type of vernacular architecture? Look at this thing. It's really, it's tall and skinny and has a funny little, it's actually great for spotting because that's so distinctive you can see it in almost any picture. And they had got this like cabana thing. It looks like they were letting people use it for as an access point for the beach. Granny's going to be on that portrait. There she is. She was always a serious kind of person. All right, let's carry on. Yeah, these houses were really, I mean, you're right next to your neighbors. You got to get along. And this is getting to the very end of the beach. The last house, which is one of the oldest, we have to go around and go all the way over to Little Beach. So let's keep going. Hopefully we get, yes. So this is a film negative. These guys have gone, that's Quonset Rocks. They've gone past the corner and walked around and we're looking back. And we're going to see the first house on the beach right there. There it is. That's it. So we're looking over that point of land back at East Beach. This is fun because that's one of the ones that shows up in the 1886 picture. So that's one of the oldest houses. And it also sort of survives the hurricane. So that's Bayside would have been up. If you went down from the Bayside and hit the water, that's where it is. Right at that corner, the 90-degree corner. So it's right here.
Bayside restaurant?
Bayside is up there.
Yeah, Bayside,
And the Audubon is like over there.
It's up past the
That picture was taken from like over here somewhere, looking back across.
There were no houses on the Dartmouth side of the beach, past Horseneck Road?
None to Quonset Rocks, and none just after Quonset Rocks. Then you start seeing some on Little Beach, but usually the way I see them is people took pictures of Quonset Rocks. They were considered very interesting. And way over in the corner where the lens quality is terrible, it's all blurry. There are a couple of houses that kind of look at.
Well, the Army estate owned all that land. So all the east to the east of Horseneck Road is privately owned.
But how far?
Time.
But I mean, Little Beach, somebody had access.
That was Army, that was it.
Really?
And later on, they put a laneway going down to some summer cottages that they rented out.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well, that explains that.
There was no public beach then?
Well, everybody seemed to hang out on Quonset rocks and nobody stopped them.
But in
Let's
the
keep
public
going.
beach that's there now, that wasn't there.
Okay, wait, yeah.
I can do it.
These are some of the houses.
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah, back up.
East
Yeah.
beach.
You want that? Yes, keep going. One more. All right,
But was it?
look at these guys, right? Very distinctive gables, actually, and they're kind of pointy stuff. You can find them in the next picture. That is what happened. This is what happened to this end of East Beach. The water came up, and there's a little bit of marshy stuff behind it at the very far end. They basically took everything and washed it right across that, and it fetched up on like First, Second, and Third Street, up by where the Bayside is. That's where all of these are. The beach is back over there, and the Bayside would be over there one day. Hopefully, I don't know for sure, but these guys might have been luckier though. It's the people in the middle of the beach who had no chance. The water came in and basically washed into the lead. It's the top half.
Yeah.
Wound up probably by where the Audubon building is or somewhere around there. And it became the headquarters for the military police. They said, oh, let's take care of that. They were stopping anybody from getting onto the beach, presumably. They commandeered the top half of his house. And a flag. Okay, now that was the end of my East Beach presentation, but I get to ask you my questions. Because these are the ones that I don't know about. That's the Little Harbor. We'll do that next. Okay, look what this is called. Little Harbor, Horseneck Beach, Southwestport, Mass. Somebody's crossed out Little Harbor and written of H.L. Trafford. And he also, for some reason, crossed out Mrs. L.L. Gifford, publisher.
That looks like Little Beach.
There's a
It
problem.
does look like Little Beach, doesn't
Yeah,
it? This just looks like water going out, and that looks like a sandbank.
Oh, the gut?
Where in the world do you have houses right next to a cut like that? I mean, it seems like it ought to be Little Beach, and that outlet from Allen's Pond has gone all over the
How
place.
about Cherry Mud Beach?
But there's no place with a sandbank. That curve is too sharp.
No, that's definitely not Cherry Web. It looks like Little Beach.
That does look like Little Beach.
Yeah,
I
but
think
where
it
in
is
Little
Little
Beach?
Beach.
Well, that's, see, so I got these buildings tantalizing me, but I've never been able to get a good
There's
enough
very
picture.
high elevations of those buildings.
That's right, somebody
You will
said,
not see along Little Beach.
Which-
west, so.
Yeah, Little Beach is quite high above the water, especially near the rock.
but that's a two-story, right, that's a two-story building. Somebody's maybe taking this, I don't know if they're.
And you can't see the house in your previous pictures when you were showing Little Beach. I thought there was a house in the end that was still standing that you showed.
There's none that exactly matches this, some that are kind of like it. And again, this would have, the channel would have to be in a totally different position than it is today. And look at that, that looks like a fair amount of tidal flow going out that way.
The only other thing that could be, only other thing is in Westport Harbor on the west side, down below Charles Wharf. That might be that area. Where it swoops in, we've got the rocks in the background. That possibly could be that area too.
Except for this, all that waterway. Anyway.
Yeah, they had a lot of water. They had a lot of water.
The way I want to resolve this is by finding more pictures of the houses on Little Beach, and maybe I should go over a little map and do this. All right, a couple more. This store, I'm pretty confident that's by Farley Lane. I don't totally have it nailed. I'm pretty confident. It's kind of fun. It's got all these little ads and little dog. Fun slide. You can look at it online. Next one. This is the one that's been torturing me. It's written on the back. Seaward, Horseneck Beach, 1921. That little sign says Seaward. I've looked at every picture of every house on East Beach and West Beach, and I can't find that porch. So if anybody knows the family who owns Seaward, this is one of the things like, did the guy just write it wrong? Oh no, I meant Algonquin. Maybe it's just wrong. Now this is the last. Okay, this one. Somebody's got to know this. The people keep saying there was an A and P.
Yes, I've done that.
Horseneck Point. Yeah. Okay. Where the hell was the A and P?
That's the bowling alley.
Next thing, which I can't find either. I can't find it on the map, and I acquired a bunch of pictures. They were mostly family pictures of various people. And I looked closely, and
What's Horseneck?
that says and P. I
Oh,
think
yeah?
that might be an A and P.
It was
Apparently
one,
they
yeah.
sold face blacking cream for this guy. and there's some buildings that look like they'd be distinctive, but I can't nail them down. I can't even prove that that's Horseneck. See? And P, maybe. Maybe. It's
I think
Horseneck Point being the point of for Gooseberry Neck. Supposedly there was one there.
Yeah, I think it was down toward West Beach.
Further down?
My father-in-law used to talk about it, and their property was way at the end of Cherry and Webb Lane.
Whoa, okay, that's totally the other.
Yeah, I think it was close, that's probably a West Beach area.
Interesting, all right, that's good
Yeah,
to look at.
I don't think it was East Beach.
great. The one, that video they have, Footprints in the Sand at Westport Historical Society, shows very confidently a card and says, yeah, it was right here, and points to basically where the breakers was. It wasn't there. So if it was further down, that gives me something to look at.
Hughie Macamore might remember something.
That's true.
I was just thinking,
He was there in my January presentation. Okay, now that's really it. So turn the page. Ta-da! We did it. Sorry to run over. I will definitely post this presentation on this website. Don't bother searching Jones. It's useless. Search for Clam Flats Westport. If you remember Clam Flats, you can find the site. And you'll be able to see all of it without any interruption.
Very nice.
I have one question from your slides there. All the homes were on the ocean side. There wasn't much on the other side of East Beach Road,
There were a few, yeah.
but not many.
Not as many, mostly there were garages on the other side, but
Right.
there were some places that looked to me like maybe, you know, the sort of homes of non-vacationers, some sort of crummy looking places, a few, like the guy who ran the garage. Maybe.
I want to thank David for a very interesting We have some light refreshments in the back. Somewhere we've been circulating a sign-up sheet so we can identify